A new NBC News poll this morning finds the divide between generations may be getting wider, especially when it comes to politics. It shows American pride strongest among older generations and gets weaker with each generation. Among Gen Z, more than 40% of women say they are not proud to be American, compared to just 22% of young men. 69% of Gen Z says they strongly disapprove of the president's handling of inflation. That's 9% higher than other adults.
Let's be honest. For a young person, it's hard to feel proud of your country whenever it feels like the whole system is rigged against you. Whenever news cycle is just a fresh wave of division and outrage, and every institution that we're supposed to trust seems like it's failing. The government, the courts, education, media. Trust in the federal government has been tanking for decades. But a year-end 2025 poll found that only 17% of Americans trust the government to do what they're supposed to do at the time that they're supposed to do it most of the time. Right? A near record low. But for young people, the numbers are even more stark than they appear. So yeah, it's easy to be cynical. It's easy to believe that patriotism is a lost cause, something for a previous generation that didn't grow up with school shootings or climate crises, or a political system that feels more like a battlefield than it does a forum for open debate. They say that Gen Z has the lowest American pride in history. And honestly, it's hard to blame them, right? A multi-year analysis from 2021 to 2025, Gallup poll showed that, only 41% of Gen Z feels proud or mostly proud to be an American. We did a episode on this the other day. I'll link it at the end of the video. But even in the comments of that video, right, people question why they should be patriotic. But that feeling of hopelessness is exactly what the broken system wants you to feel. What if checking out and giving up and giving in to the anger is the path of least resistance that is purposely designed to keep things exactly the way that they are?
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
And for July 4th, I dug into why it seems like my generation, Gen Z, is really just souring on patriotism in general. While 4 in 10 Americans say that they're extremely proud to be Americans, just 18% of Gen Zers say the same. And another statistic that's even more frightening is that 4 in 10 Zoomers say that the Founding Fathers are better described as villains than as heroes. I think this boils down to a few main reasons. The first and foremost is just the fact that we're not informed about this country. According to NAEP statistics, which survey proficiency in different subjects of 8th graders around the country, just 14% of 8th graders are proficient in history and only 22% in civics. I think if you don't know how your country works or its history, then it's pretty hard to take pride in it.
See, this feeling of alienation, it creates a profound sense of loss. Right? You feel like a stranger in your own country. You're disconnected, right? You see the flag and you don't feel pride, right? You feel complicated. You hear the anthem and you think more of the division that it represents than the unity that it's supposed to cause, right? The disillusionment is real, right? It's exhausting. I get it. It backs us into a corner. We either disengage because everything is too loud, or we get into a toxic online battle that resolves nothing and goes nowhere fast. We scroll through feeds that are algorithmically designed to make us angry, reinforcing our belief that half the country is our enemy. We see leaders that we don't respect and institutions that seem to be fundamentally broken. So we ask, why be patriotic?
Congress is historically unpopular. Now, Congress always has sort of a popularity problem, but new polling from Gallup shows 10% of adults in America surveyed approve of Congress. 86% disapprove, tied for the highest mark in the poll's 50-year history. Ouch.
We are told that to be a patriot, you have to subscribe to one of 2 warring political factions, the left or the right. And then whenever you do that, you have to subscribe to one of the smaller factions going on within those, right? And if you don't fit neatly into any one of those particular little boxes, well, there's no place for you in the political system, is there? That's not true patriotism. That's a demand for blind loyalty to a system that doesn't give a shit about you, right? It's hollow and it's a lie. And in the face of that, Giving up sometimes seems like the same option. But what if there's a third option? What if the most patriotic thing that you can do right now has nothing to do with who you voted for, has nothing to do with what party you belong to, it has nothing to do with what you post online, what cable news channel that you listen to, who your favorite podcaster is, or any of that kind of stuff? What if the solution isn't to fight a broken system head on, but to make it irrelevant by rebuilding it into something better, something real, and in a very tangible way that you can see and feel every day? That would be a quiet revolution, right? It would be about turning the grand, performative, divisive stage of national politics and focusing on a tangible world around you, right? The world of neighbors and main streets, right? I'm talking about returning to what made America great in the first place. You see, what makes a nation great is not the institutions, it's not the government, right? It's not the president. What makes a nation great is the people, right? A strong people, strong families, strong communities. That's the bedrock of a country that is actually capable of living up to the ideals that it holds dear.
America has always been strongest when we, the people, take responsibility for our own lives and communities. Today, that spirit is rising again. One home, one family, one neighborhood at a time. I am sovereign. You can be too.
That kind of patriotism, that isn't loud. It's not out there poning the other side, right? It's about building something better. It's about serving your community and being served in return. It's about love, not of a government that's 1,000 miles away, but real people in places that make up our daily lives. So how do we do it? How do we restore patriotism when we can't even agree on men playing in women's sports? Well, it all begins with a single premise. Focus on what you can control. That's right. See, the political system, it's vast and it's abstract, right? But your home, your street, your neighborhood, your town, those are very real. Those are very tangible. They're things that you can actually touch and things that you can actually get involved with and actually see a return on your investment of time and emotion and pride. Before a child ever learns about civics in a classroom, they learn about it at the dinner table. And the family is the first institution, right? And it's the most important one that needs to be rebuilt. It's not about a specific family structure either. It doesn't matter what your family structure is. It's about the intentionality of cultivating virtues that make people good citizens. Okay. Research consistently shows that parents who model civic beliefs and participate in their community directly shape their child's sense of social responsibility. This is where the abstract concept of values actually become real. Okay, you can't fix Washington, but you can build a home based on integrity, honesty, and respect. You can teach fairness and by how you resolve disputes between your kids, right? You can teach responsibility by assigning them chores and enforcing rules. You can teach empathy by discussing the needs of your children and the needs of others, right? These aren't just family virtues. These are family values, and they're foundational pillars of what makes a functioning society. Make it a tradition in your household to discuss what's happening in the world in a way that supports critical thinking and not cynicism, right? When children see their parents engaging with the world thoughtfully, right, whether it's discussing current events, volunteering, or carrying out the neighbor's trash, they learn that being a citizen is not just a passive role. It's a role that you can take an active part in, right? Build this quiet revolution of patriotism in your own home, focused on building character, a sense of duty to others, and that's the first, most powerful act of patriotism that you can start to rebuild. The next thing you can do is reclaim your local community, right? For generations, American life was defined by this vibrant ecosystem of local associations and what we think of as the spirit of small town America, right? It's a civil society, the spaces where we learn to cooperate, compromise, and solve problems all together, right? It's a complete opposite of the toxic zero-sum game of national politics in Washington, right? While trust in the national institutions has plummeted, your ability to make a tangible impact in your own community is greater than it ever has been before. And this is where the modern desire for action-oriented patriotism can truly shine, right? So put that into practice, right? You can recapture a small town spirit by supporting local businesses. The best fight against the corporate machine is to keep your local dollars local, right? You make your money locally, spend it locally, right? Get to know your neighbors, right? Get to know them, learn to support them, right? This all sounds incredibly simple, but in an era where trust has been failing, right? It's a radical act to start at this spot. We have to rebuild the kind of community where people look out for each other. And that's hard to do on a national scale, but in a neighborhood or in a street, it's a realistic desire that can be accomplished. You can go to a town hall meeting, you can volunteer for a local cause, you can coach a little league team, you can help out at the local library, join a neighborhood cleanup. There are tons of things that you can do to build patriotism right where you are, right? And these actions are the threads that weave the fabric of a community together, right? They create relationships, they build trust, they solve real problems. While the national news wants to show you a country that's tearing itself apart, you can be quietly in the corner, stitching your part of the country back together, right? And that, my friends, is an act of profound patriotism. Most people never even consider. We've been conditioned to think that patriotism has to be this big, grandiose gesture, right? Running for office, serving in the military, right? Leading a protest movement, something along those lines. And while those are all honorable things to do, and they're necessary things, right? But that's patriotism that's accessible to only a few, right? We want patriotism that's accessible to everybody. True patriotism is built on small, consistent acts of civic grace, right? The kind of neighborliness. Is that a word, neighborliness? It's the kind of neighborliness that defines our image of a small town America, right? Even if you're in a big city. It's checking in on elderly neighbor during a heat wave. It's organizing a potluck for the new neighbors that moved in down the street, right? It's mentoring a young person. It's helping your neighbor's kid with his jump shot, right? For many, patriotism is exactly this. It's helping members of the community, right? Being kind to your neighbors, being kind to the society around you, and being active beyond your own personal goals, right? And these small acts are what transform a collection of houses into a neighborhood, and a collection of neighborhoods into a town. They build the kind of trust that interlaces what we associate with classic American communities. And that's what builds a nation. That's how a nation is built. This is the practical application of the values that we claim to hold dear, right? Liberty, equality, pursuit of a more perfect union, right? These ideas that I'm talking about here, they don't live in marble buildings in Washington, D.C., right? They live in your daily actions. This approach, it reclaims patriotism and it makes it personal, right? It's not about allegiance to a political party, right? It's a commitment to the well-being of the people around you. It's a patriotism of action and not of words, right? It's a belief that if enough of us commit to building a healthy and functional and compassionate communities right where we live, right where we are, we will in time create a nation worthy of our pride. The feeling of powerlessness, that is a choice, okay? And you have the power to reject the narrative of division and build a new one. So here's the challenge I want to issue to you. This week, take one small, tangible step to begin your own quiet revolution of patriotism, right? Maybe it's introducing yourself to a neighbor that you've never met before, right? Maybe it's finding a local business to start eating at instead of the national chain, right? Maybe you join the neighborhood watch. I don't know. Whatever it is, do it, right? Then come back here and share your ideas, because I want to build a community of people who are trying to rebuild patriotism in America. I mean, it's true. We're living in an era of institutional failure and in an era of declining pride. It's true that it's hard to be a patriot right now for a lot of people, especially young people, right? But the great American experiment was never about putting blind faith into the institutions. It was always about the radical idea that you and me, we the people, have the power and the responsibility to govern ourselves, right? Small town America is the ultimate expression of that idea.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.